Hello everybody, my name is Tanya and welcome to my October wrap up. So I'm really impressed with the amount of reading that I was able to get done this month, considering that I was out of the state for pretty much the first week and didn't get all that much reading done because I was too busy sightseeing and not thinking about reading at all, which is a strange occurrence, but sometimes it happens. So the first book that I finished for the month, which I've already mentioned in my TBR video, was Fox Mask by Juliet Maria. This is the second book in the Saga of the Light Isles, so I'm not going to say too much about the actual plot, but this is another historical fantasy series of Juliet Maria's. This one's set in the Orkney Isles above Scotland. This one is a generation on from the events of the first book in the series, Wolfskin. I spent a lot of this going, I'm not actually sure how this is going to turn out, or I'm not actually sure how I want this to turn out. Juliet Maria writes great heroes. She's got some really great male leads that I really love. The romance in this one I wasn't quite so captured by. I had reservations about the people in the romance, or the male lead in particular. It ended in a really nice way and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I love everything by her, as you know by now. But in general I was quite conflicted about what I actually wanted to happen in the story. Next up I picked up Dumb Witness by Agatha Christie, and this was the first Agatha Christie that I wanted to read this month. This one, as I said, was a reread. This is the third time that I've read this now, but the last time that I read it was 10 years ago, so most of the details were gone and I went into it having forgotten who the whodunit was. So it was going to be interesting going in to see whether I would pick it up and at what point I would pick it up. Basically I failed miserably in that. I had a hunch early on, which of course turned out to be completely wrong, as it does. There were some elements towards the end that I picked correctly, just not the actual whodunit, so I was pleased about that. This is yet another Hercule Poirot novel. This one also includes Hastings. He's kind of Watson to his Sherlock, kind of offsider, who continually manages to underestimate Poirot. Even though he knows how brilliant he is, he still thinks that he's losing his touch. And it's, oh Hastings, when will you learn? So the dumb witness referred to in the title is the dog on the front here. This is Bob, the terrier of the lady who is murdered. And some of the funniest scenes in this is Hastings talking to the dog and having the dog talk back to him. So there's actual dialogue from the dog saying things to him in the way he's narrating this, which makes it really quite amusing. But you know, next up, and I'm really excited about this, and if you follow me on either Goodreads or on Twitter, you'll know already that I finally finished Metamorphosis, and I am so happy about that. I started this in August as part of the classical read-along that was organised by Jean at Jean's Bookish Thoughts, and I had started in the second half of August with the schedule, but I took longer, a lot longer, to read it than that. I got over halfway in August, but then I kind of stalled through September and only made small progress, but I finished the last of this off now in October and it's done. I won't say too much about it here because I am planning on doing a wrap up of the read along now that I've finally finished, but I really enjoyed this. But because it's short stories, it's a lot of smaller stories within this, I was finding that if I tried to rush it, that my comprehension was going down, that my enjoyment was going down, and I wasn't actually taking in each individual story. I had the same thing when I read Aesop's Fables. I couldn't read too many of them at once because it all just blurred in together and I took nothing from it. So having that break and reading them a little bit more slowly, I found that my enjoyment of this was much greater. And so that does mean I then read Going Exploring by Ali Smith as the modern adaptation of the myth of Iphis, one of the stories within Metamorphosis, and I really enjoyed this too. Again, I'm not going to go into it further because there's stuff I want to say about it, but I'll do it in a proper wrap up for the read along, so watch out for that soon. But I finished this. Next I picked up the second Agatha Christie I wanted to read for the month, Death on the Nile. Again, this was a reread for me, although I was surprised to find that this was only the third time I read it. I knew the story so well and I love this one so much I thought I had read it more times than this, but I think too I'm being coloured by the fact that I've seen the David Suchet TV adaptation of this at least 2 or 3 times as well, and that's also very excellent. I really enjoyed that adaptation of this. As said in my TBR video, this is one of my favourite Agatha Christie's. This one I think is excellent. I love the plot and the whodunit and the working out of how they did it is really, really interesting, and I think it's fantastic. I spoke in my TBR video about the fact that this has got Colonel Race in it, and that I had pictured Colonel Race as looking like Colonel Mustard, and now that I've read earlier books also featuring Colonel Race, I realised that he doesn't look at all like Colonel Mustard. And so I was interested to see how he was described in this one, to see whether there was anything that would have given me that indication. And basically there's hardly any description of him at all. So no wonder I just kind of filled in the blanks with, oh, Colonel, I'm imagining this kind of rotund mustached man. Not so much. That's Poirot. But this follows the story of Lynette Ridgway, who is a very wealthy young woman. I don't want to describe too much because it will give away some of what happens. It does happen quite early in the book, not the murder, but the setup for what kind of happens. Things happen that I don't want to really talk about, but this was fantastic. Basically really, really fantastic. And another one I'm really excited about, because I've been showing it to you for ages, I then read The Killing Mood by N.K. Jemisin, and yes, I can stop putting it on my TBR and showing it to you in every video, although I am planning on doing a wrap-up of the Book Riot quarterly box that this is in, so you'll see it again once more. But I finally read this, so I'm not going to say too much about this here, but this was the fantasy pick from that box, and I did enjoy it. It took me quite a while to get into it, because it's quite a complex world, and the magic and the society is quite complicated. It took me a while to get into it and to kind of understand what was going on, because there's a lot of words that they use that have no meaning in English, of course, that they're words created for this world, and didn't really get explained what they were. It wasn't until I was over halfway through that I discovered that there is a glossary in the back that explains all those words, and if I had have known that that was there at the start, this would have been so much easier to read. And in terms of audiobooks, I listened to the first 28 hours of Bleak House. I haven't finished yet because it's over 35 hours long, but I am getting there and I should finish this week. So these were all the books that I read in October. So there were a couple of things that were on my TBR that I didn't get to. The first being my third Agatha Christie for the month, Murder in the Mews, the short story collection that's contained within this complete Hercule Poirot short story collection. I didn't get to that one, which means I've still got 7 books to finish in the last 2 months to get my 12 in the year quota for my Agatha Christie project. And then the astounding thing that I haven't read, that I didn't pick up, was Dreamer's Pool by Juliet Marillier. This is the one that I had my holiday at the start of the month to go to the book launch for this and to get it signed, and I haven't read it yet. And my TBR for November is looking so packed at the moment, I don't know whether I'm going to get to it in November either. But that's for another video. So these are all the books that I finished in the month of October, plus 38 hours of Bleak House on audiobook. So I'm feeling really good about that for all that I didn't get to my Juliet Marillier book. If you've read any of these books or would like any more information about them, please let me know down in the comments, as I'd be really happy to talk to you about them. And I'm going to go film my TBR video and show you just how ridiculously ambitious I'm going to be this next month. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!